Hello, my name is Rick Fulweiler. I'm a Chief Solution Architect for Netscout Systems. I report directly to our CTO, Bruce Kelly. I've been with Netscout Systems for about 17 years. So great question. In fact, when we look at the movement to 5G standalone, it's really more than the new radio access technology that we saw from the change from 3G to 4G. I mean, the overall complexity of the network changes as the NEMs make the transition from dedicated appliances to virtual machines and then on to cloud native virtual functions. I mean, this shift introduces microservice-based architecture that causes the overall network plumbing to change with complex NATing. IP addresses are transient, and this overall adds to the overall complexity. In fact, the IP addresses are so unique, they actually change for many different reasons. And the IP addresses also don't identify the 5G network functions. The signal control plane messages within the 5G service assurance-based architecture is now encrypted either with TLS 1.2 or 1.3. There's the introduction of the multi-access edge computing, or what's called the MEC, and it's constructed to have applications closer to the subscribers and thus reduces the latency, which really calls out for a different level of service assurance, such as visibility to the latency SLAs, slicing visibility now from RAN to core, and SLAs per slice. So a lot of barriers that Netscout had to overcome. It does. In fact, along with all the other network plumbing challenges I was just highlighting, Netscout has had the opportunity to work with a very large NEM to collaborate in the introduction of a unique method to identify each 5G SA network function as it's instantiated. This is what's called the peer info, and it was added to release 3GPP 17 spec. This helps identify whether the 5G network function is talking to another 5G network function within the packets themselves. For example, this would be an ANF communicating to an SMF. And that's coupled with the NEMs providing their own virtual tap in the 5G SBA architecture to forward the packets from that environment back to our probes. And this all works very well together now. In fact, you might be familiar with a press release that Ericsson did with Netscout back in October of last year. That's where their virtual tap was feeding packet level data off the Swisscom 5G network directly into our probes. Now we see each NEM tackling the virtual packet environment a little bit differently. And this is why Netscout's been working directly with the major NEMs on providing adapters in our physical and our virtual probes to handle any of the issues, such as load balancing, out-of-order packets, fragmentation, and packet reassembly that might be needed. So packet level data is really the highest fidelity of communication that you could have without any level of interpretation that may be required. In fact, I've seen examples of metadata being produced, which various NEMs, and still do this today, but does not really provide the rich communication between the virtual functions that's needed for service assurance. Or other examples of communicating with the virtual functions directly. In fact, that concept started to fall apart when 3GPP released the update to the NWDAF. Now we're seeing that direct communication was placing unneeded load on the virtual network functions. So in release 17, they had to redesign that architecture, adding more complexity, in fact, 5 additional functions, whereas direct packet level data capture places no strain on the network virtual functions and does not add any of this additional complexity. Well, definitely automation will play a key role in the augmentation of the carrier staff to solve really complex problems. In fact, the key to applying the right AL and ML technology and techniques really needs to be embedded with years of telecom domain logic in the right places. If not done correctly, it can lead to data bloat and still not achieve really, we believe, the desired results. We've been working with key customers on providing an ecosystem for building automation, but really blending our smart data with domain knowledge and packaging that with ML technology to automate the isolation of the complex network issues. In fact, this technology really transcends through 4G and into 5G standalone. So the interaction between those networks and understanding that interaction is really key, especially as you see the migration to voice over internet radio. Yes, of course. In fact, we see a need to isolate threats that are attacking either the 5G infrastructure itself or leveraging the high capacity and bandwidth that the 5G network provides to generate DDoS attacks outbound. So this would be botnets, zombie attacks, or malware compromised UEs creating signaling storms, or even bad actors going after complete resource exhaustion within the specific parts the 5G network functions. Or detecting DDoS attacks that leverage the 5G data plane. This would be DDoS detection by UEs, such as the handsets, the computers, IoT devices, and so on, attacking through the 5G network. So now we're looking at combining the attacks themselves to who is producing those attacks. This could be spoofed IPs on UEs, masqueraded traffic via DNS tunnels, which is just a few of the examples that we're looking to identify. So I really appreciate the time today to go through these questions and answers. I think it would be really good if we can have the audience stop by our booth at Big 5G and see us live.